right, so let's get started. Um, all right, so let's get started. Um, Let me change the next slide, which looks almost the same as the first one, but it has another title. Let's talk about the Mixed Reality Toolkit and get to know what it is actually before we get to know how to use it in Unity. So the Mixed Reality Toolkit is a toolkit for the Unity engine. Obviously, it's a kind of successor to the Holo toolkit, which was a very popular toolkit among HoloLens first generation developers back in 2016 when the device was launched. And basically, the MRTK is some sort of successor to it. It's actually the same repository also. But I'm just saying kind of successor because the MRTK is completely different. You can't compare it. And I think one of the issues people might have with MRTK when they just get started is that it's so fundamentally different to how the Holo toolkit was implemented and how it worked, and actually also very different to other Unity toolkits you might know, as it's not relying on game objects and mono behaviors too much and doing things differently in a better way actually. So the MRTK is open source, it's community driven, it's maintained and supported by Microsoft, and you can check it out on GitHub. We will see the link in a minute. So I've kind of put down 3 pillars of the toolkit. It's cross-platform. That means that in first place, it's designed for cross-platform compatibility. So it will never stand in your way to support other platforms. It doesn't necessarily support every platform you are targeting, but it's implemented in a way that allows you to extend it and make sure it supports any platform you are targeting. And by the way, it does support a lot of platforms out of the box. So with that said, let's move on. It's very modular, so it's designed so you can pick the pieces you need. It's interface driven. You can implement your own extensions. You can replace default implementations of any service with your own implementation if you like. And that's another way of basically supporting any platform you want and extending the toolkit in a way that you need it. And lastly, the toolkit is very performant, so it's implemented with performance in mind, and using it will give you basically out of the box benefits and performance by default in many cases because of the way it's implemented, as we will see in a few minutes. The source code can be found on GitHub, github.com/Microsoft/Mixed Reality Toolkit Unity, and documentation can be found as well on GitHub and on the official Microsoft Docs page. Also, worth noting that there is Unreal MRTK for Unreal, so it's been launched a few months ago, I think. I know there's a lot of people using Unreal. I haven't used Unreal, and I don't know anything about Unreal, so I can't help you with that. But just wanted to make sure to let you know there is MRTK for Unreal. It's definitely not on pair with the Unity implementation as far as I know, because the MRTK for Unreal toolkit so far is mainly a collection of UI and UX components that are used in Unity as well and other mixed reality applications. And by using the toolkit, you can make sure that your Unreal mixed reality application looks and behaves the same way mixed reality application on HoloLens is implemented in Unity or in the shell actually. So make sure to check out that repository if you are using Unreal and targeting the HoloLens or any other mixed reality platform actually. So let's get started and see the mixed reality toolkit in action and see how we can get it into our project. Okay, let's see how we can get the Mixed Reality Toolkit into our Unity project and start using it and actually learn how to use it. So I have the GitHub repository open here. This is where you can find it, github.com/Microsoft/Mixed Reality Toolkit -Unity. This is where the code is. If you like, you can check it out there, or you can clone it, fork it, the game. You can also find the documentation if you enter microsoft.github.io/mixedreadytoolkit-unity, which will basically, it's the same thing. So as you can see, this is the same README as here. It looks a little bit more focused around documentation. So as they suggest, we need to have Unity 2019.4, which is the current long-term support release of Unity, which I'm also using for most of my projects right now. And they have, actually it's saying mixed MRTK 2.4 here, but we're going to use the latest release 2.5.1, which is the release that introduced Unity Package Manager support, which is a great thing. So as you can see here, we have right out of the box, we have HoloLens first generation, second generation support, Windows Mixed Reality headsets, OpenVR headsets, Ultra Pan tracking included, which is a nice thing. And we can also target mobile devices such as iOS and Android for AR. And also, most recently, they added Oculus Quest support. We will see that later in the talk as well. So to get started, open up Unity Hub and then select new, select your preferred version, and then select your preferred template. I personally recommend using Universal Render Pipeline instead of the legacy one, because it's been out of preview for a while now, and just I like the new pipelines, and with the Universal Render Pipeline, you get some performance boosts out of the box, and you get to use shader graph and 5x graph and many other cool things. So I can only recommend trying it out, and then enter a name. Let's call it XR Bootcamp MRTK. And for this, I'm using the suggested Unity version, which is the current release of this version. And then hit create, and the hub will start creating the project, launch the editor, and the project gets set up. You know the game. And while we wait for this, I will make sure to also show you the MRTK examples hub. So if you have a device, you can actually check out the MRTK example hub as well, which is a really, really great experience to check out what MRTK is capable of. So you can get it, you can check out how they made it, or if you want to go the fast route, you can actually get it from the Microsoft Store with your HoloLens, for example. You can just download it, install it on the device, and then play around and see how powerful this toolkit actually is and how much of work it can take off your shoulders, basically, because it comes out of the box and you can focus around creating your experience. So that's the MRTK example hubs for you. I will make sure to post the links after the presentation ends. So Unity has started. Now it's still doing some things in the background, but we don't care about that. We can actually delete example assets right out way. So this is our new sample scene. It's empty for now. Now, if we want to use MRTK, we can go for Window Package Manager. And this is obviously it opens on the other screen. This is where we would expect to find it later on, but we are not quite there yet. So we have to add the custom registry of Microsoft so the packages appear. And to do this, there's actually two ways. So in the latest Unity release, there is in the project settings, you can find the package manager. You can find this under releases. And then there's a link for the Mixed Reality and Unity Package Manager. And here we can find the data that we need to enter. So you could actually copy paste this into the Unity Editor UI and then hit save. Or you can actually just copy everything and then just add it to your package manifest. And your package manifest is, you can find it by right clicking your assets and then show in Explorer. And once that is open, you can find it in packages, in the folder packages. There is a manifest JSON. Right click, open with code or any other editor you like. This is what it looks like. And then just add at the top or at the bottom the scoped registries entry. And make sure, if you already have it, of course, you just need this part here. If you have other scoped registries, just make sure to add this. This will basically add the registry of Microsoft, and then you will be able to use the package. Now, we did that, and now if you return to Unity, it will do something. Unused scope registry is now available in the package manager, and so on. So that's because we did it outside of Unity. It's still being registered. But if we now go into the package manager, you will see that we actually don't see it here, because I don't know actually why. I would expect it to be there, but we cannot see it. So what we need to do is go back to the docs, and then you can copy the dependencies that are needed for the MRTK here as well, and then go back into your manifest and make sure to add it here again. And once we did that, they will show up in the package manager, and from then on you will be able to install updates as well and update the package and so on and so forth. But yeah, probably they're still working on that. I'm not sure why it didn't appear here once we added the scoped registry, but that's the way how you do it right now. Okay, when Unity is done, you will see a screen like this popping up, MRTK project configurator. Once that happens, we have two options now. So you can go with the legacy XR API, which is being deprecated. It's already deprecated actually, and they removed it in 2020.1 and onwards. So you should consider adopting to the new XR management plugin management Unity introduced. So in this case, we are going for the new XR plugin management. So we will disable this checkbox here because it's for legacy XR API. We will just set the default spatial awareness layer and select apply for now. Then in the package manager again, make sure to find the XR plugin management package and install it into the project. And when that's done, this window will appear again. And this time we will just ignore it. Okay, so we have that. Now we need the Windows XR plugin, which is the plugin for the new Unity XR SDK manager for Windows Mixed Reality devices. Do not use the Windows Mixed Reality package. This is the legacy one, the deprecated one, as you can see in this README as well. So go for Windows XR plugin, install. Okay. And when that is done, we will also right away, because we will need it later, install the Oculus XR plugin, because we want to support, let's say we want to support Oculus Quest with this project. So make sure to add Oculus XR plugin. And then that is done as well. Now let's go into the project settings and we will find a new XR plugin management menu item here in this project settings. And then we will see, okay, the checkbox initialize XR and startup is already set. And we want to enable Windows Mixed Reality and Oculus as plugin providers. This is just a filtered view. So this is actually per platform setting. So right now we are configuring standalone, and for Windows Universal Windows platform, we want to also obviously use Windows Mixed Reality, and on Android we want to use Oculus. So when we are targeting Android and Oculus, that's the Quest. When we are targeting standalone and Oculus, that's the Oculus Rift S or Oculus Link device. And when we are on Windows, it's either the Windows Mixed Reality VR headsets or the HoloLens devices. So that is set. Now, if you take a look at the player settings, XR settings, you will now get a warning that Legacy XR is disabled because we are already using the new XR SDK provider package. So just showing you that so you can see you cannot use both, of course. That's disabled and you don't need this menu item anymore. Now that our project is configured for XR using the new XR plugin management, we are now ready to configure Mixed Reality Toolkit MRTK, because so far we've only been setting up our Unity project. We imported MRTK into the project to make it work, but we haven't set it up yet to run. So what we need to do next is switch into our scene view, and then up here you will find a new menu item. I'm sorry, Mixed Reality Toolkit. Click on it, and then you will find Add to Scene and Configure. And this will auto configure the scene to contain all the necessary game objects that are necessary for the MRTK to run. So we have one object that's the Mixed Reality Toolkit, which contains the Mixed Reality Toolkit component. And that is the heart of the MRTK right here. This is where we configure everything. This is where our services are configured. And this is actually the one mono behavior necessary to make everything run. And yeah, so we have Mixed Reality Play Space. This is where our camera lives. This is the player's local coordinate system. You can see the main camera inside here. Actually, on a side note, if you use Universal Render Pipeline, in the default template, example template, they will put this simple camera controller on your camera. So if you didn't delete the default camera that's created with the URP template, make sure to remove that simple camera controller. It's not an MRTK script. It's just something that Unity provided for testing the URP scene. And we can see there is a bunch of other two components on here: gaze provider, mixed reality input module, and that's actually another two components that are coming from the MRTK and are needed for things to work with the MRTK. And so that's it. We have those two, and now our scene is we are using the default Mixed Reality Toolkit configuration profiles. We'll take a look at that in a second. But already we can now select play, and the scene will launch. And then we can see, hey, voila, this is our diagnostics window running. We can also see we can use hands for simulation, so you don't have to deploy to the device. So press shift to spawn the left hand or space to spawn the right hand, and then you can use them to basically test your application without deploying to device. But what's going on? Why are the shaders? Why is there the error shader displayed? So that's because we are using URP, and the MRTK has some default materials that are, of course, configured to the legacy shader, legacy render pipeline, of course. So we need to fix that first. So let's end this and then go to Mixed Reality Toolkit. Whoops, now it's working. Utilities, and then at the bottom you will find upgrade MRTK standard shader for lightweight render pipeline. This is how to update these MRTK materials to work with the universal render pipeline. So bear in mind, lightweight render pipeline is how it was called previously. Now it's the universal render pipeline. It's the same thing basically, just for in older versions of Unity 2018, 3 and 4, I think it's still lightweight render pipeline, but from 2019.1 onwards, it was universal render pipeline. I actually have a PR incoming for the MRTK that will change this to universal render pipeline to avoid confusion. Now select that, and then it will warn you that you cannot undo this action. Okay. And if we now look into the logs, we can see that we upgraded the standard shader for use with the universal render pipeline. If we now select play again, we see that our materials are now fixed and everything looks fine. So that's good. Let's ignore these errors for now. That's just because my the project is not configured properly yet, and my system isn't. So that's how the MRTK is added and configured to our scene. Now we will take a look at the configuration profile of the Mixed Reality Toolkit. The toolkit comes with a few default configuration profiles. So if you go over here and unfold this drop down, you will see we have a few configuration profiles. Since we are using the XR SDK manager, the new Unity management tool, we are going for default XR SDK configuration profile here. And we are going to use this one to run through all of the configuration once. Now, for the sake of demo, we will copy this profile. We could be using it as it is, as we already did. It's just working. But we can copy and customize it. So we click copy and customize. Then this wizard pops up that asks us where to save it and what the name is. And we will call it XR Bootcamp Mixed Reality Toolkit configuration profile, obviously. Now select clone. And you can see down here in the project panel, the profile was cloned. It contains all the settings the default one was containing. And now, but this is just the root profile that we cloned. And as you can see, all the options here now unlocked. They are not grayed out anymore because we can now edit the profile. Each of these systems comes with its own profiles. So you will end up cloning a bunch of profiles and then adjusting them to your needs. It's not just one profile, it's multiple. But we are already seeing here something that's fundamentally different to previous toolkits like the Holo toolkit or VRTK and so on and so forth. We are seeing how the Mixed Reality Toolkit is using scriptable objects to create configuration assets that we can use to configure stuff we need. We can create one for production, we can create one for development, and so on and so forth. There's many scenarios where this comes in really handy. As you can see, if I select this profile, I get the same inspector as when selecting this toolkit game object over here, because we are editing the same game object essentially. Profile. Now, we have a few systems here in place. We have the camera system, which is responsible for all things camera. We can decide to disable it or enable it. As I said, this toolkit is modular. You decide what components you want to use. Then we can select a camera system type. The toolkit comes with a default implementation for all the systems that are available. But if you like, you can just implement the interface yourself, the iMixed Reality camera system interface, and then you can create your own camera system if you have a reason to do so. And that's where its flexibility really comes in handy. Now we have a default XRSDK camera profile here. We are not going to clone it this time. And let's see what our camera settings are. We can unfold this. And we can see, okay, we have camera settings providers in place. We have an XR SDK Windows Mixed Reality camera settings provider here. And that just provides camera settings, obviously, for Windows Mixed Reality. And we have another one that's, where is it? Here is XR SDK camera settings. That's a generic camera settings data provider. Let's fold that back in. You can take a look at that if you like later. We have display settings. So I'm personally not really a fan of this, but that's how it's solved right now. So it will apply some quality settings depending on whether you are running on an opaque display or on a transparent display. So basically, whether we are running on VR mostly and or HoloLens or Magic Leap devices. So that's where transparent displays comes in place. The toolkit, by the way, doesn't support Magic Leap. I was just mentioning it because it's a transparent display. And that's where we can configure that. And then the toolkit will make sure to apply low quality settings as soon we are deploying to HoloLens. And it will apply some other settings that are currently here not visible, might be a bug, to opaque displays. And that's how it works. And then we have input, which is all things input. Now, this is a really important system. I can only encourage you to use it because a lot of work went into this and it brings you so much. It reduces the code you need to write by so much that it's ridiculous. And so you have the input system, you can enable it, it's enabled by default, and you can configure a lot of stuff in here. So you have your input data providers that are data providers that provide data about inputs. So we have an XRSDK Oculus device manager that will obviously read the Oculus APIs and then map the data Oculus provides us to work with MRTK and so on and so forth. Then we have pointers. This is all the pointer related settings. Self-speaking, input actions is really handy when you want to control, when you want to handle user input. You can define several input actions like the default ones, select, menu. For example, each controller has usually a menu button, and then you can map that menu button to the menu input action and then listen for that action to fire. And then you know, okay, the user pressed menu. You don't have to hard code anything anywhere because you just map input actions to input and you can support several controllers. You just care, your code basically just cares about the input action menu. It doesn't care which actual button was pressed to trigger it. Then we have controllers. This is where our controllers are configured, where we map controller buttons to input actions and how they are visualized as well. We have gestures and speech and hand tracking. Hand tracking is supported on Oculus and on HoloLens 2. Then we have the boundary system, which is going to speed up a little bit here now, which is the boundary system that provides on some platforms you will get boundary data for the user. For example, on Windows Mixed Reality and Oculus Quest, you will get the user's bounds if available, and then you can use that information to warn the user if he leaves his bounds. We have teleport, which is obviously the teleport system for teleporting to distant locations. Spatial awareness is relevant on HoloLens, obviously, a lot because it provides you spatial mesh data about the user's environment. The diagnostic systems, for example, is a system that's only relevant for development. You don't want that into your production builds, but that's what we saw when we launched the in editor previously. We saw the diagnostics window displaying frame rates and memory consumption. That's really handy, and it comes out of the box with the MRTK and provides us valuable information while our application is running. Scene system, I haven't used it yet so far, so to be honest, I can't tell you much about it. I mean, I know it's responsible. You can use it for loading, unloading scenes, and so on and so forth. I just tend to do that myself, so I usually don't use that system. So once again, we can see I can use what I need, and I can decide to not use what I don't want to use. Extensions is also really great and overseen a lot because extensions allows us to create our own extension services and register them with the toolkit. So we basically get a very powerful and performant service locator right out of the box, and we can use it and we can create our own services, and the toolkit will even create a profile for our own services if we want, and then we can start configuring our services. This will just improve your overall architecture and your overall coding of your project so much if you learn how to use the extensions and use it to implement your own services, to implement your own business logic, and so on and so forth. And then we have some editor settings in here that we can use to configure. And that's the Mixed Reality Toolkit root configuration profile. As I said, you can clone each default profile and then change settings as you like. And obviously, I can't cover all the settings here, so you will have to check out the documentation, which is really good, and check out the community channels if you have any questions. Also, make sure to, as I mentioned, check out the examples hub, which comes with all of the demos that showcase these services and UX components. So we have seen so far how to get the Mixed Reality Toolkit into our project, how to configure our Unity project initially for mixed reality. And now, since we are running out of time, it's time to actually execute the project on HoloLens and Oculus Quest. For that, let's start by going to build settings and then switching to the Universal Windows platform. Okay, Unity has switched to the Universal Windows platform. Now go to build, create a new folder. I usually create an, oh, I already did. Now you know I already did the build previously. Yeah, I usually create a build folder, and then I create a WMR, sorry. And then inside there, I build my Windows Mixed Reality application. And this will take a moment once again. Since this is recorded, we can skip it. Okay, now it's finished building, and inside our WMR folder, we see the Visual Studio solution. Open it up, get your HoloLens. Oh, it opened on my other screen, sorry about that. As you can see, it's a, yeah, as we know it, it's a Universal Windows project that was created from Unity. Then usually I switch to the release configuration and ARM64, and I also switch this to device and connect my device via cable to deploy, because I find that usually faster than remote deploying. And that's it. Then we deploy to the device, and I'm going to make a recording and show you just real quick how that it's working. And that was it. Of course, a very, very simple default application. But what you saw was our Unity project running on HoloLens 2 using Universal Render Pipeline and using the new XR SDK plugin management right out of the box, with all the input working, hand tracking working, and all the systems working basically, and just by importing MRTK. And from here, you will obviously start and creating your own application, which you can start doing by digging into the documentation, asking questions in the community, and later after this talk, obviously, and use the MRTK to implement your application. Now let's go one step ahead and switch to the Android platform real quick here. Okay, we switched to Android. In the meantime, I have started my Oculus application on my PC that's required to run Oculus Link. And I also have the Oculus Hub running where my Quest 2 is connected and I can manage things here. I will use it for a recording in a minute. So let's now go into the editor and just select play here real quick to showcase Oculus Link. And as I hit play, the application is automatically launched on my Oculus. I mean, in this case, it's running on the PC, but you can see controllers are working fine. The application is running. Universal render pipeline is running. Everything's working fine. This is a perfect way for fast iteration. You just put on your device and then you can test your application. You don't have to go through all the build process and everything to get started and test your application. Now, since that is running, let's deploy this to the device to see it actually running on the Quest. For that, once again, hit build settings, Android, build, and then build folder, and I usually call this Quest if it's for Quest, and then I call this drop. I might not have configured everything properly here. Yeah, so now you're getting some errors here for Android. We need to set our minimum API level to 23 for Quest 2. That's done. And the SDK should actually be configured. Not sure why it's complaining. So let's see if that fixed the problem. Yeah, starting to build now. And the build is done. We can see our package right here. So let's get the device, put it on. Okay, it's running. I'll go back to the Oculus Developer Hub application. Now we can just drag and drop this here, installing APK installed. And now I can launch it on the device, and I will make sure to create a recording again. And that right there was the application running on the Oculus Quest deployed to the device. Same experience as with the HoloLens. We get our default controllers. Note that hand tracking at this point is not working with the XR SDK plugin manager, the new one in Unity. It's only working with the legacy XR package and Oculus integration, but I'm pretty sure that will be updated soon as well. So we can deploy right out of the box to VR on Oculus Quest. We can deploy to HoloLens, and we have only one toolkit for everything. I hope you could learn something about MRTK, get an idea of what it looks like and how it's used. And I encourage you now to look into the documentation, look into the examples, and start digging through the MRTK to understand how to use it, and then have fun creating your immersive applications.
All right. Hi. I can't hear you.
This is the third time today my microphone is muted. Hi.
Well, it's going to be the last, probably, at least for this conference, because this is the last session.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't met in real life, but it was very interesting to watch your talk. I've been using MRTK for a long time now.
Yes.
Just watching all of this tedious setup again from scratch, that's a bit heartbreaking. All the stuff that you have to do
To
just
get
to
it working, yeah.
get the hello world out. Do you think that's gonna change anytime soon?
Hmm. I don't know. I mean, the Unity package manager way of installing it is pretty new, and I think it's the right way, and things will improve from here on. I think it will be much easier to get started soon because you will just add the package and they will auto configure. And I think the trick with MRTK is still to understand how it works and to stop thinking in game objects and prefabs all the way. Um, yeah, but I think the toolkit has matured a lot. I'm sure you remember the beginnings of MRTK when it was right after the Holo toolkit. Things were much harder.
Yeah, it's getting there. Just
Yeah,
watching somebody else do it from scratch, and you did a great job explaining why you do everything and how you do it step by step. But it
thank
just
you.
dawned on me on how not easy it still is. How stable do you think the XR SDK is in with regards to Unity and HoloLens? That's a jump that I didn't dare to make just yet.
Yeah. Well, I tried it a couple of times, and every time I ran into issues, to be honest, be it with universal render pipeline or with, I don't know, deploying at all, or the configuration profiles for MRTK. But by now, it's working for simple scenarios. I haven't used it for complex HoloLens applications yet, but for like basic demo scenarios and simple POCs, it's working fine so far. You cannot, at least I'm not aware of, holographic remoting is not working with the new XR plugin SDK. They deprecated it. I'm not sure what the replacement is.
Yeah, I mean that's something that you just can't live without if you're doing HoloLens development.
Exactly. So right now, you have to deploy actually to the device, unless you have a Windows Mixed Reality VR headset. Then you can do that and cheat your way around deploying to HoloLens, I guess, if you don't need special HoloLens capabilities.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, but I think it's getting there. I'm not sure if I would recommend right now making it your main plugin management tool, but I think it's now safe to start getting acquainted.
Hmm.
Because it will be. I mean, if you've tried Unity 2020, then the legacy one is gone. So
Yeah,
it's
that's why I
time.
haven't even tried it.
Yeah.
Unity has this strange way of teasing you and giving you stuff that you're actually going to be able to use 2 years down the line.
Yeah.
Not right now. And the other frustrating thing about Unity is that 2 years down the line, the current long-term service support is going to be done.
Yeah.
And any long-term services supported is just 2 years. So I do hope that they get their things together on that.
Yeah, they've been working hard, I think, on improving some things. They reduced the number of how do you call them, quarterly releases, and yeah, let's see
Yeah.
where they get.
Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself? How did you get into this whole field, and what is your specialty, if you like?
Yeah, I I was studying computer science with some focus on computer graphics. So I
Mhm.
got in touch with Unity during my studies already, but it wasn't related to mixed reality at all or VR. That was around the time when the first Oculus development kit was available, actually, but I didn't bother trying it back then. So my first touch with this world was when the first generation HoloLens launched, as I was working and still am at Media Lesson, a German company. And we were one of the first companies in Germany to get the devices. And since I was already familiar with Unity, I was basically the chosen one to get to know HoloLens, because it just made sense. And then I fell in love with it, and since then I'm only invested in mixed reality, and have been doing my best, learning stuff and getting better, and I just love it. It's a very rewarding type of software development, if you like, because it's just fun compared to classic applications.
Absolutely. I came from enterprise development and app development and stuff like that. I'm still doing that, but now I can do it in 3 dimensions and conjure up holograms out of thin air that you can touch. I mean, this is literally magic that we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rewarding, but Unity for me was a big a big challenge to learn because it's
I remember your talk you gave back then about enterprise architecture with Unity, and pretty interesting. And you have a toolkit on GitHub, right? So
I just gave a talk this morning.
I think if you're coming from that world, Unity can get really confusing. And I think that's also one of the issues people have with MRTK, maybe because it's just not what they're used to with Unity. And then they try to somehow make it work like they are used to. And that's once you start adopting that different way of thinking, then it's pretty cool.
MRTK for me it was a beast when I first saw it. It's like all of these configurations within whatever.
Tons of profiles and
you first look at it. All the profiles.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have like 2 more minutes. If you would like to say anything else, then the floor is yours. And if you, we have a comment. Roland says that he'll wait a bit more. I just hope that Unity and the Microsoft as well get their things together and make it actually happen before things get deprecated. And so we have 2 more minutes. If you want to say anything else.
Thanks everyone for watching. Thank you for moderating, and I hope everyone enjoyed the Global Mixed Reality Bootcamp in general. I'm really amazed at how much work the organization team put into it. I've been a moderator myself, and I saw what actually was all there, what they had to plan and create, and it's crazy. So thanks for that. And hope to talk to everyone soon, and maybe next year meet somewhere again in real life.
All right, I think that's the best last word that we can say. So thank you for the session again. Thank you for all the work. Thank you for the organizers and the viewers who are watching this now live or years from now. So cheers.
Thanks. Bye.